So, in light of what Nandita mentioned, the events across the year, these events have triggered divisive views in the public discourse. And most importantly, there seems to be a growing sense of intolerance for those opposing views to the person or the subject in person. And in a democratic society, how do we discourage such rhetoric which doesn't respect differing perspectives?
Sriniket, this is a tough question, particularly at this time of history. I think our own technological advances, the social media, 24-hour instant communication, and highly decentralized democratic communication. No, an idiot has the same power as an Einstein in terms of communication today. A century ago, Mahatma Gandhi's moral voice was heard loud and clear above every other voice. And Einstein's voice was heard. Today, an absolute bigot and an idiot is heard as loudly as Mahatma Gandhi and Einstein. So, in other words, the filters have disappeared. While it empowered us, it liberated us, it's exhilarating, it's also quite a bit of a problem. I don't have an answer. What I'm hoping is that in coming years, human society together, because this cannot be solved at a nation state level, because most of this technology is transnational. It is global. So even if you wish to, there is no easy mechanism for the national sovereignty to assert itself in order to ensure that the bad communication, bad as bigoted, promoting hatred and violence, very unscientific and dangerous ideas, so on and so forth. I don't really see an easy answer, but I'm hoping that global community will figure out a set of practical solutions at a transnational level to address that. Unless that is addressed, I don't see how this bigotry and polarization are going to decrease. But within nation states, also there is a high degree of polarization. Take two instances, India, United States. Two democracies of different levels of evolution, both are genuinely free, robust, but with India flawed, and increasingly in America also we say a flawed democracy. We didn't use that expression earlier in America. I think the conditions are different. While the outcome is somewhat similar in terms of polarization and too much of noise and so on and so forth, in America, two factors have added to this. One is an excessive democracy in parties in the form of primary elections, whereby you have to only appeal to the fellow travelers who already agree with you. And therefore, you go to the extreme to be dominant in the party, not really bring the society, various groups together in society. Ideally, a primary election is a wonderful thing, right? It gives power to the members, not to the party bosses. But perhaps, while party internal democracy is absolutely critical, we have to design better methods whereby the appeal is not going to be to the extremists, but to the middle of the roaders. We have to design that. The second is, unlike, for instance, India, in America, the constituencies, the American Congress, the Federal Congress, equivalent of our Lok Sabha, the boundaries are decided by each state legislature entirely through political machinations. So gerrymandering, redistricting the boundaries to suit their political advantage has become endemic. So once you have gerrymandering with primary elections, compromise is dead. To my mind, that is the central feature of American political crisis. Apart from the demographic and other insecurities, economic insecurities that the lower middle class whites feel in much of the country, we discussed it earlier. But politically, institutionally, there is a problem. American democracy is so consumed by many other things, they're not looking at, in my judgment, these two fundamental issues. There are no easy answers. Take India. Ours is slightly different. We have seen the 146 members of parliament being suspended, and parties or the parliamentarians or state legislators taking a knee-jerk view, either supporting or opposing blindly and based on party loyalty rather than fact and evidence. It's because of other factors. Parties have become totally autocratic. The members have no voice, so they follow the party bosses' diktats. If they don't follow, they have no political future, because the party bosses decide whether you will be a candidate for the next election, without which you are a nobody. B, we accentuated it further by very unthinking kind of anti-defection law, whereby if you oppose the party boss's diktat, even if you are right in logic and in fact, you will lose your office. And see, excessive centralization without any local government's role made the MLAs and MPs not legislators, but merely the local advocates to take care of the services locally, to satisfy their customers, namely their voters, their constituency. It's not their job legally. That job should be the local governments to provide services. But if any MLA says that, that MLA or MP has no future. So you become disguised executors, a role that's not envisaged under the constitution or law, but a role you're forced to perform. On top of it, the electoral management, the cost of elections, illegitimate electioneering cost, has now run into tens of crores in many states. So most of the time of MLAs and MPs is, how do I find the money for the next election? Or how do I recoup the money that I've spent? So they become influence peddlers. So there are a lot of factors which are structural and institutional. We're not addressing them. And our own first past the post system with the Westminster model accentuated that. So within the nation state, it's easier to look at factors, and then if the leadership is both inspiring and logical and very rational, and harder because there is no transnational government. But I see the point. There's definitely greater volatility, greater polarization in politics within a country and perhaps across the world today, partly because of the technology and communication, and within nation states, partly because of the institutional failings which are not addressed adequately.